Okay, Naresh, I think you can go ahead and start.
Hey, thanks, Chris, and welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I want to give you just a few words at the beginning here to explain what you'll get out of this webcast. When we look at the market for security, one of the interesting things that's happening is that more and more companies are adopting managed security services as a way to reduce risk and create security and address compliance. Today, the global market for managed services security will reach about $245 billion by 2021. And as companies try to automate relentlessly to provide economies of scale, managed security service providers help provide 24/7 sort of SLAs over hundreds of systems. Today, what Greg is going to do is explain how Neovera, who is a customer and a partner of CA's, is using both privileged access management and identity as a service to secure access from the managed security provider into the companies to help manage, and also enable those companies to manage security for their internal employees. So, for example, if you're an organization trying to address compliance, like the European GDPR regulations, for example, you can automate the process of ensuring that at any given time, only the least number of users have access to data and achieve controls of least privilege. What you're going to learn today is how Neovera has connected these things together to reduce risk. But what Greg is also going to do is he's going to show a demonstration of how Neovera has not only automated that, but provided the insight and metrics and analytics to help companies get the most out of the system. So what I'd like to do is quickly introduce Greg Shanton, who is the VP of Cybersecurity at Neovera, based out of Herndon. In Greg's prior life, he was also a security professional here at CA, and he's had a long history in security. So Greg, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you, Naresh, for having me today, and thanks, Chris, as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to the community here at CA. So I'd like to say, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone that's listening to this live, and also everyone that's listening to the recording later on as well. With that being said, let me go ahead and start off and just tell you very quickly about Neovera. Neovera has been around for 17 years. Neovera is a managed hosting provider, providing hosting services from companies that are very small organizations all the way up to very large financial organizations that are on Wall Street, as well as international banks. When you look at Neovera, from the managed hosting provider point of view, it's very interesting because we also do cybersecurity services as well. So both those go, fit hand in glove, if you will, and go hand in hand together. When you're going ahead and doing managed services, you have to do security with it. So it's a very natural thing for Neovera to add on security quite frankly, from really the first customer that Neovera had back in the 2001-2002 time frame of 3 international banks, and basically being on cutting edge, and then Neovera's never looked back on that. So if you look at it, some of the things that people look at when they're trying to move to the cloud, I'm worried about security in the cloud. I'm worried about expertise. How do I manage my devices up in the cloud, whether it be a private data center or whether it be a public cloud, typically like AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, IBM Bluemix, etc. And then I'll talk about that in a few minutes and how it relates over to PAM and how it relates to IDaaS as well. And then also looking across the industry, not just being a one-stop shop for one type of technology, but being really heterogeneous to the various technologies out there, whether it's on Linux or Windows, whether you're sitting on different storage devices like EMC, or if you're sitting on Datrium, or if you're sitting on HP 3PARs, et cetera, right? Being able to manage all the storage, all the operating systems, the applications, and then being able to tie everything together with custom software development and security. So that's what we do at the nutshell of everything with Neovera, providing cybersecurity and all the hosting and manage expertise, and making that at a very cost-effective price point for our customers. So if you look at one of the big risks today that people are talking about, and it's been going on for years, about how do we go ahead and connect? How do we connect our enterprises? How do we connect our users to data that sits in a private data center, whether it be Equinix, whether it be IBM's, whatever data center it is, right? And then also when you start looking at putting it in the public cloud. So how do you protect that? How do you know that it's really Naresh on the other side of the phone, or whether it be a mobile phone they're logging on with, or an iPad, or their laptop, et cetera, or whether it's Greg or whether it's someone else out there? How do you know that? How do you know that someone's not impersonating them? How do you know someone's not picking up in the middle and doing the quote-unquote man-in-the-middle attacks for negative things, right? So impersonating folks. How do you know that someone's not injecting some type of code into a database call, right? How do you know that? And how do you protect against that? Because as we've been saying for many, many years, 5+ years, the identity is the new perimeter. Okay, so it's all about identity management and access management around that. The other thing that's very interesting is that a lot of the traditional cloud providers out there and MSP providers are now coming under attack because the cloud MSP providers manage many clients. And so when they're managing many clients, they become the supply chain, the third-party type of attack that people are going after, right? So you need to make sure that your cloud and MSP provider / hosting provider knows how to use all the right security technology, the security compartments, all the nice stuff, network and IPS, intrusion prevention, but also move that up and extend it and manage the identities, manage access to data, because it's all about the data at the end of the day and access to that data. And so that's one of the major risks if you look at it. And then if you look at, if this is a picture right here, going left to right, this is at Neovera what we call Secure Cloud Connect. And what this is doing is, on the far left-hand side is your enterprises, and they're trying to connect all the way up to, for instance, either trying to go ahead and connect up to Azure and do Office 365 or Exchange or SharePoint, right? They're trying to go ahead and play around and understand, how do I use AWS? How do I go ahead and put things into the old software components or IBM Bluemix? I want to use Oracle Financials sitting up in the Oracle cloud. And also the other aspect we're seeing is financial networks, a lot of the financial payment networks, whether it be for things like credit cards or whether it be for much larger transactions with banks, for bank-to-bank communication or corporate treasury management systems to banks for moving larger sums of data. And so how do you do that securely? So the one thing is you put all your on the left-hand side, you see all the scanning and filtering, all the basic stuff that needs to get done. Scan for malware, check for all the antivirus, use your signature-based scans, use your artificial intelligence as well there. So you're looking for behavior-based technology, all your proxy technologies and traditional network firewalls, and also, data loss prevention. So that's what a lot of, healthcare organizations and also financial institutions are looking at to make sure data does not leak out of their organization, leak up into the quote-unquote public cloud or into their private cloud. You'll see in the middle that you'll see three things, what it really boils down to. Multi-factor authentication, or let's say authentication as a service, identity service, and then privileged access management. Now, in the past, these have been very, very huge, complex projects, as I think we all known for rolling out to the enterprise. And so the one thing that we're utilizing Neovera is we're utilizing CA IDaaS, and so we use that for one of our security SaaS offerings that we have called Neovera Insight, which will demonstrate and show how easy it is to authenticate up to it, and show you real quick drive-by and drive-through of what that looks like. But the identity as a service is very interesting because if you think about it, if you want to go ahead and connect your enterprise applications, let's say you're a healthcare organization that has 100 applications, and then you're moving up into AWS, moving up to Azure, and you want to put some of those applications up there, but you want to go ahead and connect the users to the cloud-based items, right, the public cloud, and also connect them to the enterprise, the traditional legacy-based applications. That's something that we can do working with CA, and we utilize CA IDaaS for that, as well as connectors out to like CA SSO, traditional, old school, what we all used to all call SiteMinder on site. So that's one use case. Another interesting use case we've seen is around PAM, and the traditional, privileged users. We've had, for instance, different organizations, two different use cases, one for PCI for compliance, and then also one in the financial network area, where we had We had customers that wanted to connect in and run through PAM, and then not only have our administrators use it to manage our devices, for our operating systems, our network gear, et cetera, and access to our firewalls and routers, et cetera, but also to allow third-party administrators to come in from these, our clients to come through and log on to their servers and only give them finite access to specific things they need on, let's say, their application server. Maybe, to their database server, and they only need to see certain things on the database server, and they don't need to see everything about the database. And to have that fully recorded, audited, logged, whether it be the user interface, so graphical, or whether it be on the command line and seeing what everyone types, every character someone types. So we think, we've got the use case with our teams using it, looking in, and we're really at the tip of the spear with it because PAM as a service sitting in our data center. We have, for instance, Naresh, we have really high-speed connections out to all the players that you see on the slide here, from Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Oracle, and so then we can provide access through our data center for our clients using PAM as a service. We run PAM as a service, we run the CA PAM software, and then we can give access to folks securely up to AWS, Azure, et cetera. For our PCI environment, one thing that's interesting is that privilege access management is critical for that, for recording everything that all the administrators do, but also to automate and do the reporting and all the logging, all the reporting, to be able to give that to auditors. So it's very critical for that as well. We're seeing a new use case as well for PAM that, quite frankly, that I was a little surprised it's come this early. But in the healthcare industry, there's organizations that provide access to applications for their data analysts, so non-traditional admins. So instead of just being a sysadmin or security admin that traditionally would use PAM, what we're finding now, some of the data analysts, they need to have access to data, very critical, very private information, and they need to make sure they understand what the data analysts are doing with that data. And then, every step that they're doing when they're massaging that data, and if they're taking any of that data out. So with PAM, you can see everything that even the data analysts are doing as well. So that's another very interesting use case as well. So when you look at this, what we're doing, Naresh and Chris, and for the rest of the team on the phone is, Secure Cloud Connect. We're basically from the left to the right, as data moves from your enterprise to the cloud and back, we're securing it. And then the identities are all the way along the line, so we know from end to end that it's which identity is going through and what they are doing, he or she is doing to that data all the way along the path and connecting it. And we have to be also partnered up with Equinix as well, which is the largest data center provider in the world. So that's by sitting in that infrastructure, I equate it to Park Place and Boardwalk and Monopoly, where we have all those high-speed connections, low latency connections. So anyone that's interested in connecting up to all those securely and using identities as a service and doing federation services, we'll interface right to the CA IDaaS using SAML, et cetera. And then also CA PAM, we can offer that, using the CA PAM technology. We can use, we run PAM as a service to allow people into our data center, to our private data center, as well as to what you see on the screen here also. And again, just want to reiterate about multi-factor authentication. We all used to say two-factor or MFA, moving to authentication as a service and doing step-up authentication and all the nice things that happen with that. That's all incorporated here as well. So hopefully it gives you a pretty clear picture of what we're doing there with Secure Cloud Connect. So if you look at this, as we switch from access to data and understanding what users are touching the data and what they're doing to the data from your enterprise to the cloud and back, it generates a lot of logs. It generates a lot of attack vectors. It triggers a lot of alarms. A lot of, as you scan, you find out more vulnerabilities you have on every configuration item or every IP asset, every item that you have that's connected. And then you need to understand how you go ahead and mitigate those risks. So, you have your ERP application, or you have a Salesforce application, or you have you name a document management system that's, let's say a document management system that's storing documents local in your infrastructure, but then also storing them up to the cloud. how do you know who has access to that data, what they're doing to that data, who's attacking the various components of that, and how secure, is your information, and how secure are your systems that's securing your information, and all the various pieces of that, and how do you connect the dots. And that's tricky because, what you need to do is you need to understand, or as we say, gain insight into what is going on in your environment. And your environment is no longer behind, locked doors and sitting in a safe. It's spread out and distributed anywhere in the world. The way all of our applications work today, we could have pieces of application servers and web servers sitting in containers, whether it be in Docker. Maybe it's old school, it's not using the containerization technology. Maybe it's using something else. Maybe it's just using traditional Apache and Tomcat or IIS, et cetera. And then your database servers are scattered around the world. So how do you know what you have? How do you know each individual unit, or in ITIL speak, the CI, configuration items, how do you know how secure each one of those individual pieces are that make up your business application and protecting your data? And how do you take action on that? How do you know where you need to spend your money and your resources? How do you go ahead and quantify the risk around your applications? And then if, old saying, and the gentleman I used to work with was always like, if you had $1 left to spend on security, where would you spend it? So how do you know where to spend your money and your resources for security? And then how do you align? Because this is one of the big issues with not just security, but across pretty much everything in IT. You have everything from, in a meeting, you have around a rectangle table in a conference room, you've got people trying to explain what's going on to the executives, to the IT managers, to engineering and architecture, and everyone has their own perspective. The architect's working about good, solid design, and did the design, was the system built as designed? The engineering teams are always hard-pressed. They're always working 60 hours plus a week trying to catch up. The IT manager is always arguing for budget, and the executive is always trying to figure out, how do I reduce risk without increasing my costs dramatically? So how do you align all those folks together? And that's what we believe we have with Neovera Insight. It is patent pending, and what's interesting about it, it's very simple, and it will pull all the pieces that I just talked about together, and to be able to give really, a thumbnail of where you stand security-wise for your entire organization and every business application that you have. And yes, you do have to be somewhat organized to do it, but that's something that we can help with. So one thing is, if you already have service management tools in place, if you already have I'm going to use a term from a long time ago, a configuration management database, or a CMDB. If you already have that, we can import data from your CMDB to start lining up what configuration items are. Integrate with existing security. So, depending on what size organization you are, you made a large investment in security, and a large investment can be thousands of dollars for some, it could be hundreds of thousands, or it could be millions of dollars spent on security. It doesn't matter, it's all relative to the organization. So there's an investment in service management, an investment in security management, and you can pull all that information into our system. And so if you already have a SIM tool deployed, we'll pull the information from it. If you already have a service management tool deployed in CMDB, we'll pull the information from it. The other piece is that to understand your security spending as well, and a lot of organizations really don't know how they have their security spent. Did I spend more money last year on securing my top 5 business applications, or did I spend the most money on 5 other applications? Usually they don't know, and so that's where we can help as well, to bring in and to provide that insight into your business services, linked to your security posture, linked to how much money you're spending. So with that, now I'd like to go ahead and do a demonstration of that. So let me, 1 second here, and I will share my screen. So you guys should be able to see my screen now. And this is what I'm doing here is I'm going to log on using the CA identity service. And this is, use SAML under the covers. Give me 1 second for this. And so what this is doing is it's redirecting to the identity provider under the covers. And so what our system does support SAML, and with our development team has done a great job in integrating it with SAML 2.0, so we can do federation across the board. So CA, IDaaS, anything that supports SAML 2.x, which is very critical for a very easy user experience. We also will support, for instance, CA IDaaS. One thing I didn't show there was multi-factor authentication. Absolutely, you can do all the multi-factor authentication you want with this, so that's great too. So the big thing is, I'll walk into this here, but so just showed IDaaS, how simple it was to authenticate in live, in real time. This is our demo system that's got demo data in it, okay, but it is live, sitting in our data centers and interfacing in real time over to CA's IDaaS. So this is all live demo with no net underneath of it, for you guys know what I mean by that. So everything's being authenticated as we're going, and then what I'll do is I'll start describing what this is. So Neovera Insight, we logged on with CA IDaaS. This is your main screen. This can be done, as you see how it's built. Imagine this sitting on an iPad. At CA World, we demonstrated this on an iPad, fully wireless. So as most executives will walk around with their iPhone, it works on an iPhone, works on an iPad, works on laptops, whatever you have. But really for the executives and their mobile devices, as they walk into the boardroom and they pull open their iPad and show anyone in the organization where they stand very quickly, security posture-wise. So this is the main screen here from an organization summary point of view. So you have your overall summary, you have alarms, vulnerabilities, the trends, and then a geographic chart. Everyone wants to know who's attacking them. So that's one requirement that we got from folks we've been talking to, that they want to know, okay, hey, is it Korea, is it China, is it Russia, is it somewhere over in the Pac Rim, or is the United States? Where are the attacks coming from? So then we can do geographic blocking at the network and not have folks over in Pac Rim are attacking us and we don't do business there. Then let's go ahead and just not accept any traffic from the Pacific Rim. Pretty simply put. So what you have here is an organization summary. We have an A to F scoring, make it very simple, at least in most people understand grading systems, A to F. We also have a risk score from 0 to 10. The lower the number, the better, from a risk score. So if you're up higher than a 4 or so, then they start running into some heavy risks, or high risks, but that's all configurable because every organization is different. A large financial institution, maybe top 20 in the world, has a much higher they have a very low threshold for risk, and so they're very risk adverse, and then as opposed to maybe a local retailer right around the corner. That's a chain across the United States. So it's all different levels of risk and what is needed. So here's they have a total of 13 services that they have for this organization that they have we're managing for them, and it shows here a security spend of $136,000 a year. So on that side, you can say, okay, how's $136,000 distributed across 13 services? And you'll see the risk breakdown from, and again, red, yellow, green. Make it very simple. Red is not good. It stands out for the higher level risks, and then the medium risks, they're at 53%, and then at 36% risk for kind of low level risks, what they need to worry about. You see on the right-hand side here, alarms. They've got 41 alarms, and they've got roughly 1,400 vulnerabilities. One of the things that we definitely see out there is the lack of patch management for organizations and for hosting providers and MSPs, that they don't keep up with patches. And so when people come out with patches that are required for security, that's one of the main issues. I know I was talking to a CIO of Fortune 10 organization here in the United States, and he was very, very big about automating patches and then automating the whole backup and restore process. So he would rather not be on the front of the Wall Street Journal by being attacked versus, that he will patch and test it. If it doesn't work, then he'll restore it in the same change management window. So to understand all your vulnerabilities across your organization, say, well, we got 1,400 vulnerabilities and we have 41 alarms. Okay, the alarms, we can drill down into here as well, but you kind of get the thing here as we're going. So monitor that. So we drill into alarms. We can understand the alarms for business service, for risk grade A to F, method of attack, the different types of categories according to the kill chain, number of vulnerabilities across the organization. So again, A to F, we can see domain controllers, issues, cybersecurity issues, HR systems, etc. And then you can quickly see with just a couple of mouse clicks, you know, what you have is you have what I need to focus on. So I can see my scores from A to F very quickly. So there's my F scores across my domain controllers, and I can drill into, you know, domain controller, and I can see what that is. And you may say, you know, hey, Greg, I've seen some of this stuff before in SIM tools or other tools. Yes, we actually pull information from SIM tools and then make it easily digestible for the business users to understand where they have the risk. So if they have all these Fs, et cetera, where they need to focus their attention. So that's very critical. And you have another interesting thing is, you know, like all your brute force attacks, different services. So here's an interesting thing right here. Just as an example, you can see this device here is used across the collaboration system, the email system, online banking, trading system, HR system, ERP, a whole bunch of various systems that they have. And if it's set into C, you may want to pay attention to it, for example. So we do also do the correlation across your business services, and you know, I'll lift back up here and show you that as well. So as we look in here, I'll drill back up to the top because we can drill really down to the vulnerabilities, and then we can lift all the way back up very quickly with just a couple of mouse clicks, as you're seeing. I could say, well, our online banking system is a C. I can click onto our online banking system, and I can see all the components that make up the online banking system, from Windows servers to network firewalls to the application sitting on Linux, to the routers, to network intrusion detection and IPS systems, to the next generation firewalls or UTM systems, to understand what makes that up, because the business service is not just the application, but it's all the components that make that application up, because you're only secure as your underlying, you know, infrastructure that you're running on. So if your hardware on your server has been hacked or has a vulnerability in it, you need to make sure that that's fixed. If your routers and firewalls are giving people full access to your application servers, and you know, you're only as secure as that. So you need to look at all the different pieces. So in this case, the online banking system has 17 alarms with it. We click in to see what the 17 alarms are very easily. And we can click with just 2 mouse clicks, can see, you know, what are the issues with my online banking system. So I'm a regional bank, and I'm a line of business owner, and I can understand, you know, hey, you know, how do I, you know, what do I need to have my teams focus on? You know, I need to focus on my Windows servers, maybe my network firewalls, and see what's going on. So they got a Cisco issue going on right here with the network firewall. They've got some issue going on with Linux. But you can see you can see pretty easily with a couple mouse clicks, anyone can get access and see what's going on, and give you full visibility and insight into your business services. And if I roll back up on online banking, I see, well, we're spending, you know, $32,000 a year on security. Is that enough? Well, clearly something's going on with the network firewalls and the Windows servers, and then you're trying to figure out what is actually going on with those. So then we can drill into that, and we can see, drill into vulnerabilities, and we can say, well, wait a second, we have 18F vulnerabilities. So this is probably one of the major problems that we have here, is the vulnerabilities for, you know, failed logons, a directory service issue, et cetera. So that's what's nice. I know that we've done things in the past where we've had folks go through and do the static vulnerability scanning with your various scanning softwares that are out there. They'll get the report, but then it will take them days to actually decipher it. So this information is coming back in, so the systems we use, if it's got vulnerability scanning, so the underlying systems we have that feed into this dashboard that you see is SIM tools, vulnerability scanning tools, other logging tools, logs from firewalls, operating systems, applications, anything that logs into our system, and all that's correlated and gone up. So our development team's done a great job pulling all that information, visualizing that information, making it very easy for an executive, mid-level management, and then the security team, and then also the teams that manage the infrastructure to understand what they can do and where they are. So they understand they're at a B level for overall. They understand their domain controllers need to be patched, they need to be fixed. And it also helps with the budgeting process as well, because if you have a lack of resources, maybe you need to hire folks or maybe you need to outsource it. You know, with that, there's also trending, because everyone wants to understand, okay, so I just gave you $500,000 more of budget for security. So how have we done, you know, over, let's say, over the past month since you've implemented the system? Have we gotten worse? Have we gotten better? You know, and then how have we done over the past year? So you can see we have a risk score. So risk is, and for the demo data here, it's been pretty consistent, under 2.5. You see alarms have been kind of up and down, kind of like the stock exchange and NASDAQ, right? And vulnerabilities have dropped down. So it could have been here, could have been an instance down here that on February 3rd or so that it was some systems were patched. So that dropped from, well, it dropped from 1399 down to, you know, 1378. So, okay, so someone's fixed 21 vulnerabilities, that's all on that scale. So I didn't see that. So yeah, so 21 vulnerabilities have been fixed. So if you're trying to do a bug squash or a vulnerability squash, you can manage it very easily at the high level. And you can look at the year level as well. So get all that, so you get, you know, your entire organization, get the summary of all that. You can drill down the business services. In each one of these, this is the entire organization. So you see maybe that, you know, here from just over a year ago, they're going through up until June of last year, you know, down to zero. I bet you that the systems, this is an example of someone that wasn't even looking, wasn't even paying attention to their vulnerabilities on their various servers, et cetera. So that's important to actually track and understand, get visibility in what you're doing. You think of it as a constant MRI or CAT scan is ongoing on your entire organization, and then lifting that up out of, you know, the doctor speak, if you will, or security geek speak to executive speak, so they can understand what is going on and understand the risk, value, and dollar amounts that need to be spent and the amount of manpower. And here, like I said earlier, we always get the question, well, who's attacking me? All right, so in this case, this is showing that North Korea, China, a couple from Russia, some from Malaysia, Spain, and then from the United States. And that's only as good as the, you know, the true IP addresses that are being used, as we all know, but it gives you a good flavor for that. So anyway, with that, so, you know, to summarize, you know, like the Neovera Insight, it's giving you a full visibility and understanding of your business services, your security posture, your risk of, you know, 0 to 10, your scoring A to F based on what your needs are, you know, and what your risk tolerance is. So for instance, I'll pop up the grade settings. You can go ahead and change, you know, if you're very, you know, like I can take more risk, and I can go ahead and toggle this switch here. I can save my changes, and instantly my model changes, and wow, I'm an A. You don't want everyone to be able to do that for obvious reasons, right? Because you could have someone come in and do that, or you could have them come bring it all the way down, right? You can have toggle, say I am very risk adverse, I don't want to take any risk at all, and now I'm an F. And so now I need to fix everything. So sky is falling, all, you know, tough mentality, everything's all red, so everything's all green, to the Christmas tree effect in the middle. But that's how configurable and flexible the system is. You can import your security spend. We have various security scoring models as well for risk around the organization, around the business service, and then the asset. So all the way down to your, in service management speak, to your CI. And then your business services, you import your business services. We line up where your business services are. You line up your business services, you sign to understand, and the executives and the security teams work together to figure out what the grading and risk models scoring are, and then you put your security spend in as well. So your business services and all the assets that make up that business service, you import that in, and you say how much you're spending on security, and you can tie that across your business services, and that's what you get. So with that, let me jump back. My WebEx, there we go, hold on. There we go. And go to, to start wrapping this up a little bit and to see what questions we have. This is really, like I talked about, you imagine everyone around a boardroom, and they're trying to understand, okay, where do we start? We have all the security stuff that's going on. We have Meltdown. We have Spectre on all the Kaiser vulnerabilities that have come up, right? We've got ransomware. We've got all these business services that we're trying to launch out. We only have, we only got 5 security guys. We only have 20 security guys. How do we patch all these things? Where do we start? What's my priority? This is what Neovera Insight provides to you. Consistent information for the entire organization, from the CEO all the way down to the engineer that's going to go ahead and actually do all the implementations, the patching, the security checks, etc. And one important piece is this is real time as well. Let me repeat that. This is real time also. This is within minutes to get this information. So when you do make a change in the change management window, you can have that effect come back to you. So you understand when you did your change management window and you patched your 100 servers, you can get all that information coming back. And again, just reiterate this back. We integrated this with CA IDaaS for the user authentication, for the authorization coming in, for the multi-factor authentication, and then in our compliance environments, right, where we're using things like PAM that provides the privileged access management to get into the routers, the switches, to the operating systems, to all the devices, to be able to access and be able to audit and log everything that goes on that every administrator does. And with that, Naresh, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, Greg, thanks for that. That was great. I mean, anyone, if you've got questions, answer them in the Q&A. There are a few that have come across that I wanted to pose to you really quickly, Greg. So, I love the fact that you can detect this stuff in real time and throttle and control the access. If you detect a risk and detect a threat, what capabilities do you have to lock down and remove access from a malicious actor? If you can talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So for instance, from privileged users, so if we detect something, right, that's coming through, we detected something yesterday that was going on thousands of times that we were blocking, and it happened to be someone's machine had been compromised. That's what it appeared to be. So we could eliminate that. We could block it from the network. We could also stop their access to the systems immediately by using the access management tools that we have in place. So that's the nice thing. So we can lock it down multiple levels. So the network level, we can shun it, we can block it. We can also move all the way up to the chain to the identity, the application layer, and block access for identities as well. Suspend accounts, deactivate accounts, right, so that they can't access anything anymore. And if a credential was compromised for whatever reason, right, someone stole the hardware token, had their keys, et cetera, to get in, username, password, and their hardware tokens to get in for multi-factor, right? We would have recordings of all that for our administrators that go through to the areas that we have blocked by PAM, as an example.
Okay. So one thing, building on that, one of the things I liked about the dashboard was that you let the customer manage the risk level and kind of manage the risk score, the amount of risk you want to tolerate. But at the same time, as we talk to CISOs, one of the challenges is the volume of false alarms, right? Like you have a ton of false alarms and you've got 5 people, but you have 1,000 incidents to kind of respond to, which creates a lot of security fatigue. So part of the reason for turning this into a managed services and getting the analytics is you can hopefully reduce that false alarm volume. Maybe talk to me empirically about how you kind of address that or what capabilities there are in the dashboard. Give me some examples.
Yeah, so great question. So what we do through our process, right, and the only way to do it is through automation, is that, we have the tools in place and we put so we have the tools in place where we get literally billions of logs, billions of security events that happen with a B, right? Then what you have to put in place and what we do, right, customer by customer, is to understand their infrastructure, whether it be in our data center, whether it be in their physical locations, et cetera. So we understand their infrastructure. We understand how their applications work, their data workflow, right? And so we can understand normal behavior and behavior that's, not normal, right? So, and so we have rules written for that. So we have, yes, and that takes time, but, it's like there's the directors in there so we can sift through and go from billions of events down to millions, down to hundreds of thousands, down to thousands, down to the handful of events that we really need to worry about. So what we do is we link together basically security management tools, right, and doing all that. So, for folks on the phone, traditional SIM tools, and we pull that in and we send that over to our service management tools and for workflow and for tracking everything, right? So then we can manage incidents coming through like you would with ITIL. So we follow, on the security side, we follow ITIL pretty tightly. So we have the incident management. So the security events come through to be security incidents. That's all funneled down or tapered down. You imagine an inverted pyramid, and it comes down to a very small number of events, and everything's tracked. And then if we do have an incident, let's say we have, because we have, a good number of customers, and across those customers, we may see similar attacks. So then we can make problems out of those and understand problems and automate that process with workflow. And yes, it does come down to a human looking at the information. We're not everybody in the world, right, not everyone's all into the artificial intelligence yet. There's a lot of tools out there that are using AI to try to do some of this stuff, and eventually we'll be there. But it still comes down to writing directives, understanding your customer's environment, writing the directives that map to that or the rule sets, and linking it down, and then pumping that up into the dashboard. And it happens quite fast as long as you've got enough CPU and RAM, compute and power, and RAM and disk space, which we do. Being in a large data center, we can pump billions of events going through that. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, no, that's great. So some good insight there. Coming back to the dashboard and the information, one, you've got a lot of data in your dashboard. Like, say a customer comes on board, how long does it take to get that data into the dashboard? And how long does it take to build up trends to have meaningful metrics that someone can sort of use operationally?
I've seen that for smaller organizations that, we get them up and running in production, and then you start looking over a 30-day period for a normal business cycle is pretty straightforward. I've seen the very large organizations that are going to be longer. Yeah, and you can think like 90 days, an entire quarter. But that's not to say they don't get value immediately from deploying our systems. We were deploying for an international retailer. And the first couple of days we were deploying systems, we detected an entire ransomware attack that was going on, and we were automatically blocking within minutes, roughly over 30,000 plus attacks within minutes. So we weren't even fully instrumented yet, and we were blocking attacks. And because of the logging and correlation, right, we were able to see things where they had users from the other side of the world logging on with valid IP addresses and valid usernames, and they were valid because we were also getting usernames and passwords, usernames and IP addresses and MAC addresses, so we knew what equipment they had, and we were able to determine that that they were legitimate folks that were on travel, and they were, as we corresponded back to the client immediately and talked to them about it. So it may take, a small organization 30 days to get everything rolling, right, once everything's in production, to get all the data coming back so you can see that and start sifting through it. In a large organization, maybe 90 days to start seeing trending. But I want to make sure it's really clear is that people have seen instant value, within like the first day or second day of deploying our services. Like I just mentioned with the retailer, blocking over 30,000 ransomware attacks within minutes. It was like day one or day two of actually our deployment.
Okay. Actually, so
we were visually seeing it, and we were visually seeing a massive spike. Naresh, like you're asking me, like on the dashboard, we were seeing on one of our dashboards a massive spike and surge of activity. I was like, okay, that's not normal, right? And we started automatically blocking it.
Oh, no, that's great. Yeah. I think it's great. Like once you are able to quickly aggregate this analytics, it's better than having the siloed analytics that people may have internally in their organization, and you can do more with it. Like as another question that I think that people adopting will want to ask is, pretty simple. You think about today, you've got your systems on premise you're managing. You've got privileged users and privileged administrators, application owners that feel perhaps a loss of control, right? Like when you move this stuff into a managed service provider and a managed security service provider. And we've seen this, of course, with privileged access management, like once you take away root access and so on. Like, I'd love to get your take on maybe some best practices or how companies have, like crossed the chasm on this, adopted a managed services security approach, but given their IT folks the right level of analytics and actually restored control. So, like, talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you take something away, people get all nervous about it, and then that's one. And the second is change. People get nervous about change as well. So what you got to do is really talk to folks and to let them know you're going to be able to get access to these machines, but it may not be root access, but you're going to get on the need to know what you need to do your job. And that's definitely, that's happened within, our organization, right, and other MSPs as well, because people are used to having, hey, I'm the root admin, I'm everything, right? But once you really start getting into the details of it, they start to realize they don't really want that or they don't even need that. So that's one thing. Second thing is that once you show them that's easier to do their job where they don't have to remember literally hundreds of passwords to get into hundreds of machines, because I'm hoping people don't use one username and password to log onto all machines. Like every server's the same, which I'm sure there's some organizations that do that out there. That is not a best practice. So, but if they can log on to PAM with one username, password, credentials for multi-factor authentication, you can link up, using SAML, IDaaS, et cetera, or directory service, et cetera. Then PAM, as an example, can then help log you on to all those devices behind, and you don't even have to know the real username and password for all those systems. It's going to have a password vault to remember that for you, And for the real security conscious guys out there, if you really want to start using like a hardware security module like Talus or SafeNet, I believe PAM right out of the box supports those. There may be a different license key for it, but I believe that's supported right out of the box as well. So I know some organizations want to use the hardware security modules for storage of security identifiers.
So I want to jump to one, like regulatory compliance, because one of the things that's driving the market for managed services, managed security services, is that managed security services providers give a sort of a repeatable way to quickly streamline your controls. You could kind of reinvent the wheel at home, or you could use Neovera to quickly, take these systems and put controls in place. And then, the way you've connected identity as a service, privileged access management, multi-factor authentication, already take you a significant way down that path. Like, I would love to hear from your perspective, as you work with customers and prospects, what are the top, what are some of the early or your some of the compliance issues that organizations are looking to you to address initially? And then number two, like right along with that, when an organization has to do an audit, help us understand a little bit about how you streamline that and what they get out of Neovera to simplify the audit process and prove compliance.
Yeah, very, very timely too, Naresh, is that as we're going through our latest iteration of PCI audit right now, we've been through one before and gone through all that rigmarole before, and it's the latest version of PCI is even more stringent. And it's more stringent around multi-factor authentication as well, and all the evidence that needs to be collected. So we're going through with our QSA right now, our qualified security auditor, going through our PCI audit, like I said, our latest version. So a couple things. One is that whether it's PCI or PCI for financial services and anyone that takes credit card payments, et cetera, that deals with PCI information like credit cards and other information around transactions, or whether it be high trust, and which is all in the healthcare area, which is very stringent as well, or whether it be FedRAMP over on the government side. They're all very, very difficult to achieve. I can tell you that we're mostly focused on the commercial side, so I'll talk to that. We have a partner on the FedRAMP side that we work with, and we do security services for. But for the PCI area, There's a lot of things that go on. So an organization, when they want to go through and they want to stand up their own infrastructure, there's a lot of what they call evidence to collect, and through all the requirements, 98 questions that you have to go through for PCI. And it's not just simply a one-time event. It is continuous. It is every day. As soon as you get your PCI audit, that's just the start. It's every day having to make sure that you're getting all the logs, that you're actually reviewing all logs daily. Are requirements. You have to look at how you're going to automate that whole process. You know, you have to do, every time you make a change, depending on the level of the change, you have to do all your vulnerability scanning and patching to that as well, and recording of all your change management. So you have to have your change management, it has to be tight, all of your, you know, and when I'm saying that, change management, vulnerability scanning, patch management, all the running of all the information, infrastructure services that you guys do, you know, that people will do today, you know, network, operating system, application level, and all the security that wraps that around, you have to go ahead and watch what everyone's doing as well. So all your admins, you have to know what they're doing, and you have to record everything that all the admins are doing to automate, to make it easier. So when the auditors come back for the next go-around, they say, okay, give me all your evidence for everyone that logged onto these systems. Give me all your evidence for all your admins that did change management, and give me all your changes for this specific area. You know, for if it's access requests, you know, people needed to have more admins added into an environment. Well, where's all the change management for that? Who did it? When did they do it? How did they do it? And what's the justification for each? All the details.
That's great. I think, so, you know, along with that, I know a lot of folks on this webcast may already have some of CA's single sign-on, user provisioning, governance, advanced authentication on premises, and would like to simplify the management of that by moving it to a managed services security provider. Can you explain how they would get started and what's involved in being able to take that and put it in a managed service security provider and still get all the benefits you have, you know, having it on premise?
First thing I say is the first step is to contact Neovera, is what I would say there. You know, work with your CA account manager, right, and then contact Neovera. But that is, and joking, all joking aside for a second, but the first step is to, you know, like what we do, right, is, you know, we will sit down with the client and understand what they have, where they're needing to go, and help them with their journey, quote unquote, to the cloud, right? And that is, sometimes there's going to be components that need to still sit in the private data centers or on their premise, and we can help them manage that. Some of those assets, some of those applications may want to move up to a private data center or to a public cloud like AWS or Azure or Google. We can help them with that as well, and then we can pull all the logs from all that information, and we can help them secure it. And then, you know, again, you know, utilizing, like, if they're, you know, like CA client, they would move up to the cloud. You know, we would start working with CA IDaaS and that team, and then connect that through using like the CA SSO connectors back to their legacy applications to link that, so they don't have to worry about manage that entire process. We can help that. We can help them do everything, you know, soup to nuts.
That's great. How long does that normally take? Like average case? Is that a 2-month effort?
I'd say it depends on the size of the organization. You really have to look at number of apps, you know, that people are using, and then what the cross-section is. So it's usually applications and users, and then the types of applications they have. If you're SAML, it's pretty straightforward, right, to move things. And if it's a whole bunch of legacy applications with custom coding that needs to be done, that's a little more involved. Or if it's screen scraping that's involved for certain applications, as we've all seen in the past, right? So, you know, it could go from a couple months, you know, to longer. It really depends. We've seen organizations that have, you know, a handful of applications to organizations that have 400+ applications that they need to have a mix of between enterprise. You know, it has applications still sit in the enterprise, some sit in the private data center / cloud, and some sit in a public cloud. So a whole hybrid approach.
Got it. Well, Greg, I just want to say thank you for joining us today and sharing all this information. I think, you know, the demo was great. Like, I appreciate, I think visualizing the risk and seeing how you've put controls around it, like helps a lot of people think through the problem a lot more. And like, I think the information is very timely. So thank you, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.